But I think I could have been much, much harsher. Now, there's a term that I've used in the next paragraph. I've said, this has been issued by a usufructuary of this earth. Now, usufruct is an ancient, established part of law. Usufruct is the right to use something without damaging it. So, for instance, if I am left a house by somebody, but I'm left it in a trust, and it's actually designated to my younger generation as the beneficiaries of that trust, I'm allowed to use that house as long as it goes unharmed to the children. I don't know if anyone's had to deal with inheritance or trust or anything, but usufruct is something that we use in law. And we are all usufructuaries of this earth, every one of us. And this is something that our culture has lost, that was alive and present for many thousands of years, especially the Native American tradition. Every decision that was made had to be made not on just account of what these people present thought about the decision, but the implications for the next 7 generations. And as such, we are all usufructuaries of this earth. That means we have a God-given right to use this earth as long as we're not damaging it. And this is the big shift that I hope that we're going to now start seeing in the way that corporations are relating to this planet. We're not saying don't do business. What we're saying is don't cause harm. Find ways to do business that are sustainable, resilient, and that support the greater abundance for all humans present on this earth. So, as a usufructuary of this earth, I am going to be issuing these notices. And it just, that paragraph just finishes off that this is informing you that you are personally liable for your actions, and that your title and received orders offer you no protection from prosecution or commercial maritime liens. In being personally liable, you are risking your entire estate, your ability to access credit, or any form of professional insurance or personal indemnity. And please note that ever since Nuremberg, I was just following orders is no longer a lawful excuse. I felt a bit upset there when you pointed fingers at the policeman, because we're all guilty of this too. Well, every time that you pay tax, oh sorry, the lady said that she doesn't follow orders, but every time we pay tax for everything that we buy in the shops, well, every time that you buy something in the shop, there's VAT on it. Yeah, but we're all participating. Well, the reason I pick up on it is not to blame you or to make you wrong, because I really empathise and I understand your anger, and I understand that you feel very passionately about this subject. And the point for me in saying that is that I don't think that we're ever going to come into a place of common unity where we are truly all one, whilst we blame other people for their roles in our life. We're all here together as one humanity, as one people, on one planet, in one universe, and every wrong that we project onto other people is usually the very thing that we're not addressing ourselves. So, fine, and then it just ends off with some lawful blah blah and some place for signatures. Now, the maxim of law that this is based upon, this document, and a maxim of law is considered an irrefutable truth. It is the highest thing that you can quote in the highest law courts. And to base your arguments upon the maxims of law is like, there's nothing you can say about that. And the habitation of each one is an inviolable asylum for him. This has been established in law for thousands of years, from the outset of the legal system that was set up in the Roman Empire, that was then taken on by the Vatican. That is still, to this day, a maxim of law. The habitation of each one is an inviolable asylum for him. Now, the following quote is taken from the attestation declared by all police officers. Upholding fundamental human rights and according equal respect to all people, and that I will, to the best of my power, cause the peace to be kept and preserved and prevent all offences against people and property, and that while I continue to hold the said office, I will, to the best of my skill and knowledge, discharge all the duties thereof faithfully according to law. Did I get that right, officers? Do you remember that? Okay. Is that all right? Thanks. And please, officers, I really understand that this might be a slightly uncomfortable position for you to be standing in right now, and I just empathise with you greatly, and I really thank you for allowing me to stand here and speak and just observing and witnessing. I really thank you so much. And just whilst I'm addressing people on a personal level, my understanding is that there are many Gurkhas that are being employed here as part of, is it 4GS? G4S. Now, my understanding, sirs, as Gurkhas, is that you have passed through absolutely formidable training and have almost without exception carried out duties in the name of law and love and a greater planet all over the world. And I honour you for the work that you've done. Just outside of Brighton, there's a shrine which is dedicated to all the fallen Gurkha officers from the 2 World Wars that got taken back to the Royal Pavilion and died there. And I have a personal connection to the Gurkhas, and I just have such great sympathy for you. I just own my own sadness in seeing you guys having to wear yellow jackets for the interest that you are today. And I really have no blame for you whatsoever, and I express to you my deepest empathy. So this document will be signed by me, in any rate, in good faith, without ill will, vexation or frivolity. This is not frivolous. I'm not just causing trouble. I'm not just having a laugh. And I'm not blaming. I'm not vexatious. This is without ill will. This is in total love. This is my last-ditched attempt to deal with this lawfully. Yesterday, Vanessa Vine was talking about at what point do we have to cite self-defence in the use of the protective use of force. And so my feeling is that we haven't yet used the full letter of the law because of our ignorance of the law, all of us, me included, because we haven't been aware of processes like commercial liens and the fact that duty of care exists and the fact that misconduct in a public office exists. Because we've been ignorant of those facts, and what do they say about ignorance and the law? I think it's no excuse. Yeah? So we all deserve what we get. That's another maxim of law. Ignorance of law is no excuse. And that applies to everyone. No one is above the law. It's the same for officers. So us re-educating ourselves about the difference between law and legislation is absolutely tantamount. And I propose that by following these lawful processes through, then, if that fails, then we're really screwed and it's time to start getting really desperate in our actions. But my feeling is that it won't come to that. And the reason I think it won't come to that is because some people fear that the world is moving towards a totalitarian state. And maybe it is already. But the thing is, that totalitarian state, whether it be fictional or real, depends upon the idea that everyone is free. Now, there are some people who propose that we've never really been free, and that the government, since their inception, wow, it's amazing that the wind blew through at that particular moment. Excuse me, that made me look quite hippie, probably, to see a connection between the wind and... So, now, if there was a totalitarian state that was instituted with the Roman Empire, that was taken over by the Catholics, that was then incorporated into the crown, which has now been sold into corporate interests, because I don't know if the police officers are aware of, or if you are either, but they're not even public servants to some degree, because they're all working for private corporations. Sussex Police is a private for-profit corporation, as is the HM government now. The Crown, where you think you're paying your taxes to, is also a private corporation, and it's actually the trading name for the UK PLC. Basically, there's been a hell of a lot of goings on behind the scenes, but it's not gone so far that we can't bring back that is just on the verge of slipping out of our grasp. The public service does still exist, and we do still have time to renationalise our industries, like the police force, like the fire brigade, like the hospitals, like the education, like the energy supplies, like the trains, like the buses, like the telephone companies, because all of these private interests that are managing our public resources, you know, it's been a corporate takeover, and that's what's going on in our government at the moment, is that the corporations are paying for the legislation that suits their interests. Yeah. And unfortunately, at the bottom of the rung, us, the public, and the police officers, and the people at the bottom of the council scale, the magistrates and stuff, are just being paid to break the law incessantly. So, at the bottom of this document, we require signatures, witnesses, names and addresses, dates, and ideally to get them notarised. Because when you notarise a document, you are using public officials to certify the process that you're doing. And a commercial lien, once it's correctly perfected, will have a number of notarised documents to show that you've sent your documents correctly, that you used your recorded delivery, that you've received that you have or you haven't received responses from the people that you're claiming against. And the whole process, if you get it all fully notarised, well, if we all club together and we get a notary to come in and do a whole load of documents, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It might cost £100 or so if you do it individually. But the point being that this is the start of the process, and that we can all use this. And there's a guy called the Spaniard, El Spaniado as he's on YouTube, who in recent years has been taking on the banks for their corruption and their unlawful practices. He's not paid his mortgage for the last 3 years. He's one of many people who are not paying their mortgages, and they're pursuing this through the courts. It's really important that we allow people to know that mortgages are completely unlawful, as are all credit cards and loans. Now, popularising this and getting people to use proper lawful processes in suitable numbers, in sufficient numbers, will eventually turn the tide on this completely. Now, the Spaniard has recently put up a very detailed video about commercial liens. It's an hour long, and if you want to educate yourself in detail about this, please go online. Commercial lien, L-I-E-N. It means link in French. It's like a chain. It's like a paper ball and chain, and there's no one who can escape it. A commercial lien was created as part of international commercial law. If you have an American retailer who is buying goods from a Chinese manufacturer, and the Chinese manufacturer doesn't supply after payment has been made, how does the American retailer get redress? It's using lien rights. It's using the commercial maritime law. It was established by kings who were trading between each other with ships, and it's been used ever since. It's the highest form of law on the planet, and it's how, even to this day, large corporations make sure that they don't rip each other off. So this is a very, very powerful process. It's absolutely current. You will see people online that will say, oh, this is totally bogus and this is phony and it's all rubbish. It's used, and it's been used in this country. And I'd like to give you an example of that. There is a chap called Guy, who is based near Bodenham, near Bristol, who took his council to court for criminal activity relating to council tax. He then followed that up with a commercial lien. This resulted in him, because the council wouldn't pay up for the damages that they'd caused, he took a huge van down to the council offices and started emptying the offices of all the computers and photocopiers and everything. And when the council called the police to come and intervene, because he had all his notarised documentation and it was checked out that it was completely lawful, the police had to help him enforce the lien right. which meant that they protected him whilst he emptied the council offices of all the goods until the matter was resolved, at which point they had their goods returned to them. A lien right can be claimed against all the property in somebody's estate. So that is to say that this is totally kosher. It's been properly investigated by all sorts of people. This is a process that we can all put into action. My final point is something to do with my card here. I'm a representative of the People's Public Trust, and at the bottom of the document that I gave you, you'll see a little piece of Latin, and it says something like Corruptissimi Republica Plurimi.
Many laws corrupt the public.
The more the laws, the more corrupt the republic. And that's what's been going on with our legislative processes. We have to get back to the understanding of, am I causing harm to you? There was a big discussion in the meeting this morning about whether or not somebody filming you is causing you harm. Now, this chap here has been filming me for the last hour, and I could say that he is violating my rights to control my image. Do you think he is doing harm to me? Well, this is a very interesting point of law, because I have no lawful claim over my image. If you choose to look at me, I can't tell you not to look at me. You can look at me as much as you like. And we are now in a world where I'm probably being watched by a satellite in great detail as we speak. We've undoubtedly got microphones in hedgerows and in trees and all around, because we live in a surveillance culture now. And nobody, not even the police, as it's stipulated on the Met Office website and on legislation.co.uk and to get into. The point being that without basing our claims on any kind of acts or any kind of legislation, we all have the right to claim a peaceful existence on this planet. We are all born masters of our destiny. Whether we like it or not, we are all masters of our own destiny. And when we are born onto this planet, that is the title that we're given. When our parents contract with the state to create the trust in our name, which is Mr. Ian Powell. Well, in fact, I began out as Master Ian Powell. And when each one of us was born, we were all perfect representations of divinity. We were all loving, all seeing, all compassionate, forgiving. We were absolute images of the divine, and anyone who looks into the eyes of a baby knows that. It's so utterly beautiful. And that's the state that we can get back to if we reinvigorate the title of Master, which is why I have, through my training, become a Master Observer for the People's Public Trust. And I encourage you all to investigate the People's Public Trust and how you can use this to great service in your community. It is non-confrontational. It is saying that as a representative of the People's Public Trust is an innate thing that exists. We have all entrusted as the public servants to do things on our behalf. And it's innate. It's not an organisation, it's an idea. It's something that's always existed. And when we observe public servants doing their job inappropriately, it's a little bit like with quantum physics. When you watch an experiment, you affect its results. And when you watch public servants in the work that they're doing, they tend to work just that little bit more judiciously. And so that's another thing that I'd like to encourage you to investigate. The website's at the bottom of the document.
I'm quite curious to hear what one's command officer thinks about these commercial liens.
My understanding... Okay, so you wanted to know if the police officers would like to speak about any of this. My guess is no, but what? No. Obviously, they have a very important role here to not take anything personally. It's one of the fundamental aspects of non-violent communication. Do not take things personally. I don't think they'll be able to enter into a discussion with us. Now, I don't think we can enter into any kind of conversation with them here today, and I'm really grateful for them having patiently witnessed and allowed me to speak without any interference, and I thank you with all my heart for that. Thank you very, very much. Now, oh, go on. I could pass around the microphone in a bit. You've got a question?
I don't know, because I missed the beginning of your talk, but how do you perfect a commercial lien?
Okay, well, I'm going to do workshops about that. You can find out about it online. I've done as much of a spiel as I can in this moment, so I feel like I need to close because everyone's been so patient.
Just a small one,
yeah?
light-hearted one, really. It's about the image taking with the camera
yeah.
and stuff, and that you don't take away on that. You know, not from a person who knows his soul and that, but of course from those very loose sorts associated with corporations, it's very possible.
I hear you. I wish you'd have had a microphone to say that. Now, just to say, before we started, I went along and I just took the numbers of all the officers here, and I issued some notices the other day to Chief Inspector Webb, who was the commanding officer here the other day when one of the first lorries was turning up, and I've been also issuing notices to other public liaison officers, and unfortunately they have received an order from their commanding officer that they are not to accept any notices that I issue to them on a personal level. Now, they are just receiving orders, and so I'm not going to try and dishonour them by forcing any bits of paper into their hands or anything like that. And the point is that we can concentrate our efforts on the people who are in a position of responsibility. And really, the idea for me of sharing these notices is to, with the other officers and talking like this with them, and I'm going to be talking to policemen all week this week, is to just engage them at a heart level. But the heavier processes, I suggest, are reserved for the commanding officers that are issuing things like this. So earlier on it was Chief Constable Richards who has accepted responsibility for receiving this notice. And so he's the person who I'll be following up with. But that's not to say that all of these officers won't also appear on the same documentation, because you're able to issue a notice to people jointly and severally, okay? So it's not like, you know, every person that's involved with this document will end up being personally liable.
Is that even if it's only been accepted by one person?
If the Chief Constable has accepted, he's informed me of his desire to receive notices on behalf of all of these officers. As such, he is liable, but as being under their command and me having named them on the document, and them having been present today as I've read out this notice, that means that every one of them, including these here, whose numbers I haven't got yet, the line just along the front and on the other side, if anyone wants to take some extra numbers or get some camera evidence, that'd be great. But basically, all the policemen that have been here present and witnessed this going on today are now personally liable, and if they in the future don't redress their actions, will become knowingly and maybe even intentionally guilty of aggravated criminal damage. And again, I say this with deep compassion in my heart and without any aggression. It's just what has to be done. So I think that's me all done for now. Like I say, I'll be doing other workshops if people want to know more about this in greater detail. Would anyone like to ask any more questions? I can hand out the microphone.
Thank you.
We'll give you a hug.
Gary.
Thanks very much. Agree with absolutely everything apart from one minor point which I'm still yet to find anybody who can give me the answer. You said we do have a constitution. I'm yet to find such a document. A constitution is a constitution, and I think there are other people. Constitutional law through Parliament, Prime Minister being the constitutional monarch. Okay. That's as close as we get to one document.
It's true that in our country, unlike other countries, we don't have a singular constitutional document. My personal feeling is that it's not even necessary. Because the law, do no harm, is something which is innate. We don't need a piece of paper to base our authority upon. Do you need a piece of paper to exist? How come is it that we are the only creatures on this planet that require pieces of papers in order to trade with each other, that require pieces of paper to cross a border, to have a piece of paper to build a house, you know, it's just totally absurd. So I'm not going to base my authority upon pieces of paper.
Yeah.
I'm using the legislative and lawful processes, and I don't actually need a piece of paper to issue a notice. The notices I issued the other day were verbal, but a paper process, there's a reason why they say that the words are mightier than the sword. One of them is an analogy of the other. The pen is mightier than the sword, and the reason that statement was made is because we're now evolving into another period of time. We don't need to solve our problems with violence and harm. We are now entering a period of time where we can resolve our differences with words and with communication. We've come out of the base chakra. Oh my God, I'm really sounding like a hippie. And now we're progressing to where it's coming out the throat, and I can just say, you are harming me. Please stop. It's what my children learn at school now. Stop it, I don't like it. Stop it, I don't like it. And that's what we can do.
Power to the people!
Well, I'm hoping to put it on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, just the final point I'll make then is just something to do with our brains and how we're all connected. You know, I talked earlier about us being one humanity, one common unity. We now know through science that if, and this is a very important point I'd like to share with our interactions with the police and the public servants over the coming months. We all have mirror neurons in our brains. This connects us, our thought patterns between us. Every one of us is connected without having to consciously do that. When I'm talking now, there are the same neurons firing in your brain as if you were saying these words yourself. That's true for every one of us. So we are now entering a period of time where it has been scientifically proven, where we knew this for a long time anyway, is that we're all interconnected and we all affect each other. One of the manifestations of that interconnectedness... Lost my train of thought. Does that mean you're all lost too? Oh, that's right. Okay. So when somebody attacks us and accuses us, it sets off this thing in our amygdala, which is the root part of our brain. And when we feel attacked, we become absolutely incapable of positive transformation and action. So if we blame and send aggression in the direction